Hi there, Steve Kaufman here again, and today I'm going to talk about language immersion. If you enjoy these videos on language learning, please subscribe. And also, I remind you that for those of you who are not native speakers, this video, the audio, the transcript can be studied at link, and I'm going to leave a link, L-I-N-K, in the description box so you can study this to improve your English. I think we all know that language immersion is an ideal way to improve in a language. What do we mean by language immersion? Obviously, it means being immersed in the language. In other words, hearing the language, reading the language, speaking the language, being, covered head to foot, so to speak. If we think of the analogy with swimming or being immersed in water, language immersion is being immersed in the language. Now, this is normally, it can be the situation if you live where the language is spoken, if you live surrounded by the language or immersed in the language. Now, being where the language is spoken is no guarantee that, in other words, you may in fact be immersed in the language. Potentially, you're in a language immersion situation, but don't take advantage of it. And we have many examples here in Canada, for example, of immigrants who live here for many years and don't improve in English because they don't take advantage of that environment. So it's no guarantee. And part of the reason why they don't is because, let's face it, it's not that easy. You do have to have a strategy. You do have to prepare yourself. You can't just go there and expect somehow by magic that you're going to pick up the language. When I went to Japan, I didn't go to school, but I learned Japanese. I spent a lot of time listening and reading and building up my vocabulary so that I could understand what people were saying so that I could interact with them. So you still have to have a strategy, even if you are immersed in the language. Now, if you are not where the language is spoken, then I think you could have a kind of a related strategy, which is what I do. Like right now I'm working on Polish, and I would like one day to go to Poland. I hope I do go. I don't know when I will go, but I have that as a goal to eventually put myself in a situation where I will be immersed. I'll be experiencing language immersion. So I spend a lot of time reading on the internet. I use our link Chrome extension to quickly import articles from Polish newspapers while maintaining my Ukrainian and Russian. And I listen, and once a week or so I may speak. In other words, I'm preparing myself with the thought that one day I will be in that language immersion environment and I'll be, ready to hit the ground running. So you do need to have a strategy, whether you're in that immersion environment or whether you're trying to create an artificial immersion environment. And of course, that's much easier to do today than it ever was in the past. Also, when I think of language immersion, I think of French immersion here in Canada, where Anglophone students study or do most of their, in fact, all of their schooling for the first 7, 8, 9 years in French. And then by grade 10 and 11, it tapers off a bit, but at least half their subjects are in French, even in those final years. And apparently, because I have 3 grandchildren who went through the program, the first 6, 7 years or so, the kids do speak to each other in French, and then they are less and less inclined to do so that the immersion experience becomes less of a full language immersion experience. Also, they read in class, but they don't have any handy tools to make that reading easier for them. And it is hard to read on science or history or whatever it might be, math, in another language. So I think that link would be very useful in this immersion environment because it adds another dimension. So they're not just reading, they can listen to the text, they can save words and phrases. And also I think the audio helps give you some momentum, because I've always, especially when I was younger, reading in French as a 17-year-old was more difficult. But if you have the audio, if you can easily look up new words and see the words that you previously looked up and so forth, it just gives you more momentum and makes it a more complete language immersion experience, in my view. Anyway, those are my views on language immersion, and I look forward to your thoughts. Bye for now.